Hey, Shalom, Akim, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Chakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us his truth. A sincere Shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching the truth and sincerity. Shalom. This is Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 1. If thou wilt return, O Israel, saith Yahweh, return unto me. And if thou wilt put away thine abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove. And thou shalt swear, Yahweh liveth, in truth, in judgment, and of righteousness. And the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in glory shall they glory. For thus saith Yahweh to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns. You see, that's being the point, okay? And this is very applicable to us in this time now, Akim, because, the Lord was getting on our people for what they were doing back then, worshiping idols, lack of faith, okay? And so the Lord was telling them basically to work on themselves, man, because this word fallow ground, okay, it's like when you're plowing the ground, so it says break up your fallow ground. Right, so you're breaking up ground. It means to get rid of the things that are stopping you. Okay, you can imagine you got some hard dirt. You can't really plant any crops on that hard dirt, so you got to crush it up, get it nice and soft. All right, and then this word thorns is going into something or someone that gets in the way. Right, you can remember in the New Testament it goes into them thorns. Where Yahweh Shah said, some seed was scattered among the thorns, right, which represents the cares of this world, right, those thorns choking out the life of the plant, okay, and so, that's one of the ways we gotta, basically work on ourselves is get rid of the cares of this world, okay, and be single-minded for this truth, like the scripture says, if thy eye be single, then your whole body be full of light, okay. And so, we've been going over this in camp, and it's very deep and spiritual. It's a very good thing for brothers to consider is, what are some of your weaknesses that is stopping you from being the best man you can in this truth? Because this truth is like a discipline, or it is a discipline, really. Okay, you can think about, basketball, and you got some of the greats there. One that comes to mind is Kobe Bryant. I used to watch some of his videos, and, people from all different type of walks of life would listen to some of the things he said, man, where he went into visualization and meditation and practice and putting in all these reps and outworking everybody. And you can really apply that to anything in life, man. You could apply that to a desk job where you're, people in the world will try to become a manager or work their way up the corporate ladder. And, you can apply that wisdom, worldly wisdom of how he got good at basketball to the job, okay? And you can do that in this truth. Just for an example, look at how these great men out there in the world became great at their craft, man. They didn't let distractions stop them, right? Like Floyd Mayweather was a good example for me in my life. I like how he uses positive self-talk, and then he works out all the time, man. Even when it's uncomfortable as fuck. Like, let's say he's at the nightclub or whatever, and then he'll have his coach or his whoever was helping him get in the car. And then he'll run in front of the car for miles and miles in his boots and in his clothes that he went to the club in, Just an example, right? Like making making your daily life in order with this truth, or for lack of a better word, ordering your life around the truth and not the truth around your life. This truth comes first, so you got to find the things that you need to work on, because in this truth, we got to be growing. We can't just stay stagnant, And I know there was a particular brother who, I used to break bread with long time ago, he ended up falling out of the truth. And, he stopped making videos, and he stopped, seeking the Lord on a high level because basically, he had a bunch of thorns in his life, and he didn't take the work to really work on himself or put the Lord first to the point where he did want to work on these things. So he just allowed those things to choke the truth out of him, man. One of the things that I remember telling him was to clean up his diet, man. Grown-ass man eating fucking chicken nuggets and french fries every day. That's bullshit, man. You shouldn't be doing that, man. Even if you're overweight or maybe you're not in the best shape, if you eat healthy food, it still counts, man, because, yeah, you might have to work on your weight, but at the same time, as long as the food is clean, you can have a clear mind for this truth. Your body's going to function properly. You're going to be at a higher level overall with anything you put your hand to. We got to understand this is the earthly tabernacle, this body. And it's the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh. So how you gonna let this temple get dirty and filthy and mucked up? That's just one example, man. I said, man, you need to stop eating that bullshit and learn how to cook. I gave him a simple recipe. I told him, look, make better choices. You could buy the organic meat and make your own chicken nuggets, or, you can make grass-fed burger patties and salads. And, if you like the French fry, look, just get a potato, a baked potato. You could throw it in the microwave. The microwave is not the best option, but it's damn sure better than eating, French fries fried in seed oils with like 20 different ingredients. For those of you that don't know, in McDonald's, the French fries have like at least 20 ingredients in them, man. And that shit doesn't rot. You could throw French fries from McDonald's and chicken nuggets into a bag, and that shit will never rot. You could leave it there for 50 fucking years, and it's just gonna stay there just as is, okay? It's fucking disgusting, so you gotta understand what that's doing in your body, man. And the scriptures say a merry heart has care of his meat and diet, roughly paraphrasing, okay? So the heart is the mind, okay? So one of the reasons you may not have discipline or strength to make videos or read or study is, your mind is weak, okay? Your mind is weak because you're poisoning it, and you don't want to take the time and the discipline to do that, okay? See, this truth is not just about reading and making videos. Sometimes you got to work on other things outside the truth that is going to help you in the truth, right? You may have a woman who's fucking up your whole life, okay? Instead of just, oh, well, all I got to do is read and make videos. You read and making videos while this bitch is putting hell on you. Next thing you know, you could end up in jail. You could end up, losing your life over this woman. You got to cut that bitch off, man. You got to cut that thorn off, get that cancer away from you, so you can focus on the truth, right? Losing weight, cutting off a woman, maybe your job is in the way. Maybe you need to find a better job or a different job, or maybe you have to stop focusing so much on your job. I remember before I was in this truth, I was obsessed with my job because I wanted to make money. Jake's always trying to get their bag up. But sometimes you got to realize, man, there's no point in getting your bag up, because the way this Babylon system is set up, we going through hell. You make more money, so you're just going to end up spending more money and be in the same situation. Unless you want to be like those frugal people, make a bunch of money and never spend that shit. But then again, we're going to be here for a temporary time, man. And the Lord is going to come back. All this shit's going to be destroyed, including your bank account. So at the end of the day, like the scripture says, give me neither riches nor poverty, right? So, just do the bare minimum to survive and have a little bit of money for a rainy day. You don't need to become rich out here. Take some of that energy and put it into the truth, all right? So these are just a few examples of things, of thorns that could be choking the truth out of you, and the Lord had to tell our people, I'm going to read it again. Jeremiah 4:3, for thus saith Yahweh to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground and sow not among thorns, right? Sow your seed on that good ground. Like, in the New Testament, Yahweh Shai talk about certain seed fell upon the rocks, certain seed fell upon the thorns, and then certain seed fell among the good ground. That's where you want to sow it, man. When that seed eventually springs up, it'll bring up, 40, 50, 100 fruits, okay? And so I'm going to grab a quick preset. We're going to go to Proverbs 22 and 5 real quick. Hang on, I got another. Just get it right here. Proverbs 22 and 5. Real quick, it says, thorns and snares are in the way of the froward. Okay, the froward is someone that just goes, right? They set in their ways, right? You could think about Esau. You could think about 2/3 of our people, a lot of them being froward in their ways. Let's get this word froward real quick. Let's see. H6141. There's the word, and it means twisted, distorted, crooked, perverse, perverted. That's right. Somebody that's just, just like that, man. Let's see. We got here fraudulent speech. But yeah, that's pretty much the point, man. Being froward. It says, thorns and snares are in the way of the froward. He that does keep his soul shall be far from them. Right, you got to keep your soul. It's like someone who's a keeper. What's a keeper do? They maintain things, right? You keep your car by changing the oil, by changing the air filters, changing the oil filters, aligning the wheels, making sure they got the air, proper air, making sure that you got enough coolant in the engine, right? Make sure you keep it properly maintained, That's how you keep your car. Well, you got to keep your soul. This thing is attached to your body, and your body's a machine. So, there's different things brothers got to work on. Maybe certain brothers got to work on something else. Maybe you got to work on being more brotherly. Sometimes it's not a physical thing. Maybe it's more of a spiritual thing or a social thing. Maybe you got to work on being more brotherly, spending more time around the brotherhood, right? That could be a big weakness. Maybe your weakness is, lack of responsibility. Maybe you really do just need to sit down and read more, okay? So you got to find what that is that's stopping you and attack it. And a lot of times it's going to be uncomfortable, all right? Let's read it again. It says, thorns and snares are in the way of the froward. He that doth keep his soul shall be far from them. And then we're going to continue on. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, right? How do you train a child? Through discipline. They do something wicked, you beat their ass, you tell them, look, this is why you don't do that, whatever. And then the child gets it through their head, and then they grow up to be that disciplined person that's doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? So we gotta discipline ourselves too, going into self-discipline. And there's a lot of books out there on self-discipline. There's a lot of books out there on that. There's a lot of people that speak on that, like that guy David Goggins talks about discipline, right? Sometimes you need to be more disciplined. Because, I found out, and a lot of other brothers have found out, a lot of time we can't, we don't reach our goal for the day because we spent too much time on bullshit. Maybe we got off the plantation. Next thing you know, a family member calls us, or, old shorty knocks on the door, whatever. 2 hours go by, and you haven't even thought about the scriptures. What's up with that? How you going to do a lesson? How you going to get anything done if you don't even know where your time is going? So some brothers may need to take a notebook or a piece of paper and figure out where all your time is going. Write down what you did for the day. I woke up at 8 in the morning. You know, from 8 in the morning to 9 in the morning, I prepared for work. You know, I got to work at 9:30. From 9:30 to 5, I did my job. At 5 o'clock, I went home. I watched TV for 2 hours. Then I played video games for 1 hour. Then I went to McDonald's. Then I tried to do my lesson, but I couldn't do it. And if you got that piece of paper, you could easily see why you didn't do it. You know, wasted time on bullshit. Then you ate some food that made you feel even more like shit. How you going to make a lesson like that? So then what's the plan? The plan from there would be, okay, let's change how we do this tomorrow. You know, first thing when you get off work should be get into these scriptures. You know, if you need like 30 minutes to unwind or whatever, you know, go have something to drink. Not like alcoholic. I mean, which there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, I find that's not good right before I do a lesson. But I mean, just, you know, refresh. Maybe you need to eat a meal or drink some water, you know, take your mind off things. Maybe put on a brother's video. And then once you know, for me, usually takes like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And then I, you know, start reading. And then I get into it, make a video. Sometimes I could jump right into it, you know, depending on how much cortisol is built up in your body from the plantation. But the point being, you develop your own routine so that once you get off work, or maybe you do your lesson before work. Certain brothers like to wake up extra early and do their lessons. Whatever works for you, but you got to find out where the thorns at. You got to do that work. That's part of this work. You see? So, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, man. I got a lot of weaknesses that I have identified that need to be attacked. All right? And so a lot of you brothers out there, I encourage you to seek out what those weaknesses are so you can attack them and overcome them. And remember that, you know, through Yahweh Shai, who strengthens us, we can do all things, man. So you might need to pray about it and then get to work. So with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Hakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa, abba, shalom.